Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Hanine, and I'm from VZR. And I'm really, really thrilled to announce that both Anthony Ray and I, everyone knows and loves us, Sir Mix-a-Lot, are co-hosting a really, really awesome podcast with the folks from NetherRealm Studios, who are the masterminds behind the audio of Mortal Kombat 11 and many other games. And so we're really thrilled to have them here with us today to talk about all the really cool audio, music, and all the cool sound that they've been doing for these amazing games. I want to introduce three gentlemen that we have from NetherRealm Studios. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Rich Carle. I'm the director of audio at NetherRealm.
I'm Dan Forden. I'm a audio director of character audio at NetherRealm.
I'm Matt Swanson, and I am a sound designer at NetherRealm.
Fantastic. Let's get to it. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. And we're really thrilled. I mean, Mortal Kombat is one of those iconic franchises. I remember playing Mortal Kombat in arcades actually when I was many years ago, as you all can tell from my hair and grays. It is. I remember one of the things that really just kind of blew my mind about Mortal Kombat is not only is it incredibly fun to play, but it is just really visceral. That's one way to put it, both in terms of sound and graphics. And I think that's what makes it so exciting and so compelling as a fighting game. And I can imagine over the years, there's been a lot of sounds recorded for whether it's Foley or, voiceover, dialogue, music. I would love to sort of start off by saying, did you all have the ability to sort of either use some of these sounds that are so iconic that you want to keep using, or did you all decide to just start from scratch on Mortal Kombat 11? I don't know who wants to maybe tackle that first. Maybe Rich, if you want to take that on first.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat, you're right, has a really long history of lots of games from over the years, and paying attention to that history is something that we care a lot about. We want to be inclusive of our history, and we make sure that like Scorpion doesn't sound too different from Scorpion's past, from Sub-Zero doesn't sound too different from Sub-Zero's past. But with every Mortal Kombat game, we often will start with material from the last game so that we understand where we were and understand where we're going to go. So whether we're like building the core fight elements, the core punches, kicks, blocks, or whether we're going after a character, there's a lot of referencing to like, what did they do last time? So we've been doing that for a long time. And sometimes we even have like grunts that are from the original Mortal Kombat. We still hide those in the game and put them in the game just straight up because people love them and they're funny, and they add some nostalgia to the game that we love too. So it's a mix of both of some sounds are brand new, some sounds are built on older sounds, and some sounds are straight up, from the original title.
Awesome. I just before I was just going to say before we continue, I don't know if you all know, but Anthony is quite a fan, and I'm sure he's going to talk about that as we have our discussion here. But Anthony, I mean, we were talking the other day. You've been playing it during tours, right? Like in your tour bus and stuff, playing.
Oh man, we get on the tour bus and it's like two things we play: Madden, Mortal Kombat. That was it, man. And it was like. I used to play Shang Tsung a lot, and definitely I like Sub-Zero because I knew his finishing move. Back then, it was like down towards back C.
Yeah.
That was it. All right, so I remember that, but that was it. The other guys that I like playing, well, actually, I think it was Melina. Is that her name?
Yeah.
I like playing her. Because I could whoop ass with her, but I never could do her finishing moves quick enough.
She's got that teleport kick that comes down from the ceiling that no one ever expects.
Yeah, can't block it either. Love it.
So which version of the game was that you were playing a lot?
I have no idea because we bought every version. Like whatever was new, we'd be on the road. New version comes out, we get it. New version comes out, we get it. Then after a while, I realized damn, I'm getting fat, man. I'm just sitting here playing the same game.
Well, thanks for being a fan. We totally appreciate it.
Yeah.
He was really thrilled, by the way, when I mentioned we were talking to you all. So yeah, he's definitely a fan of the series, movies, everything. We were talking about it all before this.
It's probably the first politically incorrect video game ever, and that's what I liked about it. It was like if your mom hated it, you knew it was good, right? My mom's like, "Honey, so much gore." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah. Yeah, Mortal Kombat. We've been getting kids into trouble with their parents since 1992.
That's right. But my mom liked the Babalitys. She used to like that. She said, "Oh, that's cute."
Oh, the Babalitys.
That was actually my idea.
It was?
And it came from like I was searching sound effects CDs for different sounds for whatever, and for whatever reason I came across this baby thing, these babies crying. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if like you could do a move that would turn your opponent into a baby?
Brilliant.
And I told Ed about it. And he's like, yeah, that would be cool. So he like got an artist to make all these little baby versions of all the characters, and we did the thing.
That is so cool because, there aren't a lot of instances. I don't know if you all know, but I may have not mentioned to you, but I come from a audio development background in games. I used to do sound design and whatnot. There's very rare instances where the audio person can actually influence the game insofar as, there's this new idea that now turns into animations and script and all kinds of other things. And it's usually the other way around. We're just told what to do and we go record it and edit, and integrate it. But that's really cool to hear, Dan, that really cool idea of the Babality actually influence the design. Yeah.
In the 27 years of Mortal Kombat, I think that's the only thing. So.
Okay.
Well, there's Toasty.
Well, that wasn't my idea, believe it or not.
That's awesome. Anthony, so tell us a little bit about, what, cause you're obviously, music and sound, like what sort of things attract you to, from a sound standpoint?
Oh, I love, the fact that, the DAWs out now allow for you guys to really get immersed in the sound. It used to just be standard, cabbage crunch, and that was it. Right? But now some of the sound effects I hear now, you can hear panning and you can hear like frequency rolls as things happen to give it a more realistic kind of a 3-dimensional aspect. And I love that shit, man. That stuff. I mean, I don't mean to cuss, but I love that stuff, man. I mean, that's,
yeah.
I would love to watch you guys like engineer that stuff and make it. That's the fun stuff, man.
We actually have a behind the scenes video. I didn't show this to you, Anthony, because I got it before we started the podcast. So if you guys want, let me go ahead and actually play it, and then we can give us something to talk about. So let me go ahead and pull it up here. So this video is from the Motion Picture Sound Editors Golden Reel Awards ceremony, and I believe the team from NetherRealm Studios were nominated for Best Sound Editing in the Interactive category. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So that was from 2020. So let me go ahead and play this video. That was incredible.
Hungry kitty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to go and kind of, as we go through these and just section by section.
I actually recognize from the movie. The ice chips falling Sub-Zero. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to cover here, so I kind of want to let's start talking about the vocalizations. I mean, there's some really cool stuff here with all these wonderful tools. That maybe talk about some of your favorite tools that you're using to, do this. I mean, I see glitch machines. I saw some really cool stuff I'm actually not familiar with.
Yeah, plugins I've never used before.
Like this one, I mean, it was doing some kind of spectral analysis. What is this one?
I don't know. I don't even know what that is. So Matt probably would be the best to speak to this because he's doing a lot of sound design in this kind of context in Reaper and with all these.
Yeah, tell us, Matt, what's going on here?
So that plugin right there is called DTB, and it's basically a collection of various effects that you can sort of apply and layer over each other. It's actually very old, and they discontinued it. But yeah, it still gets a lot of use around here.
And this is a VST, and it looks like it's running in Reaper?
Yep. Yeah, we use Reaper mainly for all of our design.
Okay. Awesome. It's such a cool tool.
Yeah, it looks like there he's just doing a little bit of a frequency shifting.
Right. Very cool. Tell us a little bit about what frequency shifting is for those who may not know.
You're basically adding additional harmonics onto the original source material. So it's really good for, getting high frequency detail in there that may not be in the original recording.
Interesting. Okay. Very
It's also
cool.
good for vocals, gang choruses. When it's a bunch of people singing at once, you can get a lot of the crispy stuff on the high end. It really sound good. I've done that before.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And then as we go through, there's, then you can see that it's doing the real-time analysis there. I love this because this segment here is just showing examples of some of the stuff that was created and then layering them together. And I love how you show in this video how it all kind of comes together in this, all these different tracks. Let me go play that again so we could see. And that's just the skulls.
It's just the vocalizations for the skulls.
Yeah, that's just the vocalizations for the skulls. Okay. I see.
Sound effect of them coming up out of the earth.
Exactly.
Your soul is mine.
He likes to say that a lot.
That's so cool.
That's the shit.
That was Shang Tsung, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
So this is a victory. So when you win your match, each character has sort of a flourish. So this is and it always goes into like almost complete slowdown, but not completely. It's like it's still moving at like 1 frame a minute at the very end.
Ah, I see. So
What do we call it? Time dilation.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So in this video, we've removed the UI that's normally there, just so you can see some of the pretty pictures and concentrate on the sound. Yeah.
Very pretty, and it sounds amazing.
So yeah, the cinema team, they come up with all these just super cool little vignettes for each character. And then obviously the effects guys get in there and make it look, and the lighting guys, and they just make it look absolutely stunning. So we just kind of have to keep up and try to match their amazing visuals with our sound.
Well, you guys are doing more than keeping up. I mean, you're helping fill it just comes to life. I have a question for you as far as like, I have a passion for immersive audio and surround sound. Tell us maybe a little bit about what's happening. You have the gameplay, right? In the matches, and then you have the little vignettes and cutscenes and things like that. What are some of the things, both challenges and what you're doing in terms of keeping that immersion. For example, like you have the gameplay, and it's typically, I'll call it 2D in the sense that it's, it's on the screen, you're playing a game, you're playing a match, and, people are, it's kind of a pseudo two-dimensional. But, you have these like scenes that are in 3D, full 3D, right? What parts are, let's say, mixed in surround, and what parts are maybe just normal stereo LCR, and maybe talk a little bit about that. I don't know who wants to cover that question.
I could start from the gameplay side of it, because that's sort of where I spend most of my time. I mean, we go to a lot of effort to try to make sure that everything on the screen that you see, that you hear it in sort of a realistic position. In other words, that the positioning of the sound makes sense with respect to where the thing is on screen. So we do very little actually with sort of stereo sounds for our sound effects, because we want them to move. We want them to move correctly across the screen, so get the panning right, essentially. So that's just like kind of the character-based stuff. But then we also have environmental sounds for whichever background we're in. And so there, we actually do create like this fake 3D or surround, basically a bass, what we call a bass loop, front left and right, rear left and right, to give you that sort of enveloping experience of the sound. And also just like random things that you might expect to see in the background, they're going to be happening all around you. They aren't actually. It's just to create a little bit more variety and interest in that environmental part. And then anything that's actually physically in the background, we'll put sounds on. And if as we go to one edge of the background, we might start hearing something from off screen. That some big thing that was happening off screen. Although we do try to limit that, because we typically don't want to hear stuff that we're not seeing. So there's things that we can do with Ys and attenuation radii that will allow us to like mute that stuff if it's off screen or too far away for us to want to hear it.
Can I rewind for a second? When you were talking about if something's moving in space, and I agree, I always start with mono when I do that, because it's impossible you can't move something on both sides. It doesn't work. But explain what you do with the tail of that, because I've always found this weird thing when you cross a certain point and you're panning a sound and it's kind of moving from right to left and it sounds natural. How do you deal with that tail end that kind of is coming? In other words, you're going from, say, right to left. How do you deal with that tail end that's coming from the right to left and get that? Are you using, say, a reverb tail and panning the reverb tail also, or what are you doing?
Well, we're not doing anything, which is great, right? Like, for example, we'll make a sound for Sub-Zero's ice ball, right? And you put Sub-Zero on the left side of the screen, the opponent on the right side, and he throws it from one side to the other. It's just making sound, but since we put the sound on the actual collision object that's going across the screen, all it does is just moves across. So like the audio system itself just kind of takes care of that for you.
I actually have an example of that I'm going to pull up here. So Anthony, what they're saying is, let's say you have a collector's weapon. It's going from left to right, right? So it's actually the game engine, or the sound engine in this case. You said you all are using Ys? Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's tracking the object. So basically, if let's say I'm starting from left to right, it's actually the engine is tracking that. So they don't actually have to pan it. It's auto panning, if you will, because it knows where that data is, right? It knows where it is. Because is a sound object? Do you go in and actually attach it to the animation itself? Like you go in.
So by default, actually, if you play a sound on a character, it'll just play on the character. But we also like to do stuff where, like, Kotal Khan has this massive sword, and when he swings the massive sword, I kind of wanted it to be like, I want to hear that. I want to hear the arc, the trajectory of his sword and it moving. So you can actually go into the art and find out, there's a bone. It's called Sword 10, and that's the bone at the tip of the sword, and I can actually attach the sound to that. Like you would have heard. It's hard to hear when like all these things are going on, but when we're developing, I can just sit there in like an empty background with nothing else going on, and I can like tune that up, and you can actually hear it. There's a side effect of this that we had no idea and did not anticipate, was that there are a number of sightless players that like Mortal Kombat, because we do try to keep very disciplined about where we play sound, so they can play this game without seeing it. and they know what's going on.
I love it because, the sound gives you all the cues you need if you're tuned into it, right? If you know what to listen for. That's fascinating.
So then, that kind of wraps up, it's like the gameplay side of it. But then there's this whole other side of the game, which is the story mode, and Rich spends like a lot of time there. So he could talk to you about, how we deploy surround sound in that context.
So do you guys just get the raw content and then you have to come up with the sound, or do you have suggestions coming from whatever, the god of Mortal Kombat? How does that work?
Yeah, I'd say both. Mostly, I think we're kind of left to our own devices at this point. I mean, Dan's been doing this for a while. We all have been kind of doing this for a while. But yeah, Ed Boon, a creative director, likes to come in and point us in direction. Sometimes he'll be really passionate about a particular thing. He really wants it to sound a particular way. He's bringing in a lot of different groups in together to try to get his vision in place, which involves particle effects and cameras and animations and sound. So I think it's a collaborative effort for sure. And oftentimes in the sound department, we're our own worst critics. That we criticize each other's work constantly. We all think we can do a better job than each other. So that's fun because it makes our product sound better. So there's a lot of feedback, free-flowing feedback.
So tell us a little bit about, I think there was some mention of some tools that you're using. So there's Reaper as a DAW. I'm sure you all use the same or different workstations based on what you're all doing. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about, for example, Dan, what DAW do you find yourself using?
I use Nuendo, but that's mostly because I'm doing music, and so I use that for MIDI. And then we have ton of virtual instruments, and so it's basically like when I have time, if I have time to write some music, and it's nice to keep up with that, write a couple tunes for a couple backgrounds every game if possible, but really like most of my time is spent kind of wrangling the character audio of the game. So like figuring out what moves need to be, what all the moves are, what kind of sounds I need to have, making moves to those, figuring out, we need a sound for this, and this. Because the designers forever have been working in like this sort of antiquated script language, which they're just barely weaning off of at this point, but we're still kind of in that mode. And I have a programming background, so I kind of became familiar with that. So I ended up doing a lot of work. It was basically a process before, I don't know, I guess Mortal Kombat 1, or rather Mortal Kombat 9, programmers did most of the implementation of sound. And sound guys know that that's not good. So we sort of gradually were able to, with my help, kind of take that over. And now we implement pretty much every sound in the game, with the exception of probably some UI stuff and things like that.
Sure, that's great. And Rich, what do you use for your DAW of choice?
Yeah, I do music in Nuendo music. I also review all the 5.1 story mode stuff in Nuendo as well. But if I'm going to design a sound effect, I'll use Reaper. And I still got my Sound Forge around because I'm old school. For any type of like 2-track focusing. Yeah. It's
such a quick editing tool. Sound Forge. I remember using Sound. And Matt, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned Reaper earlier. Is that your DAW of choice?
Yep. Primarily doing sound design 99% of the time. So Reaper, and then every now and then Nuendo.
Okay. Now, Anthony, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you're primarily a Pro Tools user, right? I know that.
Yeah, but it's not because I think it's better. It's just because I've been using it so long. I just know
exactly.
it,
Yep.
But I tell most people I know, just use whatever feels right to you, because that's really what it's all about. If it feels right to you, if you can bang out a song, 10 minutes quicker using another DAW, then you should use that DAW, because all of them pretty much have the same plugins, same basic algorithm,
Yes, they all do the same kind of thing. It seems like sometimes there's a flavor of the month that everyone kind of runs to, but yeah, it's whatever tool you feel comfortable with is what you should be using.
Absolutely, that's great advice.
I've spent a lot of time learning the new thing, only to 6 months later be like, I can finally do what I could do 6 months ago, with the new thing. Over the years we've spent a lot of time with Sony Vegas. It was a great tool for doing sound design.
Yeah.
And it was powerful with video too. You can do a lot of video stuff.
Super handy when you have all sorts of videos coming at you every day.
Did Yamaha buy them? I think Yamaha bought the SoundForge in Vegas, I think, right?
Oh, Sony.
At some point. Oh, it was Sony. My bad. Yeah, you're right.
Sony had it for years, but then Sony
they still have them. Oh, they did get rid of it.
They did get rid of them.
Oh.
It was confusing. The Yamaha, I think, is Steinberg, right? With a lot of the Nuendo stuff. Is that...
Steinberg is Nuendo, yeah.
Yeah, Steinberg.
Cubase, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And now, I believe it was Dan, you mentioned Wise. Maybe tell us, is that for Mortal Kombat 11, was that the sound engine that was used? So as opposed to Unreal?
Yes.
Okay. And Unreal 4 is the engine for the graphics, correct?
For Mortal Kombat 11, no.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Yeah.
So I don't even know what you call it, but we were using a hollowed out version of Unreal 3, I think. But it was hollowed out by all our extremely intelligent core tech people to optimize rendering and Mortal Kombat is 60 hertz, so I think Unreal stuff is not just like vanilla Unreal. I don't know if it really handles that, or at least they believed it didn't. So over years and years and years, they kind of made it their own engine, or our own engine. And so that's what runs all the graphics in basically everything from Mortal Kombat 8, like the Mortal Kombat versus DC, up until Mortal Kombat 11, including the Injustice games.
So you're using a hollowed out Unreal, and the Wise is integrated is basically integrated into the whatever version of Unreal you're using.
Yes, and so what I was going to say was that before, I think it was it was Injustice 2. I think we started using Wise, and then before that we were using Fmod. Yeah.
So Matt, now as far as sound design, maybe tell us what sort of sounds you primarily focus on. Is it Foley, special effects? What are some of the things that you primarily do in Reaper in terms of design?
So basically everything. I'm doing characters, Foley, environment sounds, dialogue processing, creative processing for certain characters. I've basically done everything. The focus of our game is primarily on the special sound effects. Foley and environment are very supplementary to that. So yeah, I'd say the majority of the sounds I'm working on, it's either a whoosh or an impact. That's just the nature of the game.
Well, they sound huge. I mean, just the impacts, the whooshes. I mean, all the do you work on do you have one person or a team working on some of the special sounds, like the effects, fatalities, whatever? I mean, do you guys assign those amongst yourselves?
Yeah, basically what we do is whenever a character is getting ready or looking like they're ready, and that's both animation and effects, we start to see who has the most cycles available, and they get that character. And they cover everything from their special moves to their intro and victory cinematics, and their fatalities.
One of the things that, with Mortal Kombat 11, and obviously just the Mortal Kombats in general, Anthony and I were talking earlier about the movies, and just, we enjoyed them, even the first one being as cheesy as they are. And you know what? I never watched the sequel to that first one, the Annihilation. I hear it's terrible. Anyway. Yeah, no.
Maybe you don't. Maybe don't.
I mean, the stories are actually kind of cool, and so this whole notion of getting a diverse set of fighters coming from all over the world to defend Earth. I mean, it's awesome. So maybe tell us a little bit, Rich, from an audio standpoint, maybe some of the work that you've been doing in story mode for Mortal Kombat 11 and the expansions.
Yeah, well, so story mode is a wonderful part of Mortal Kombat. We have about over 3 hours of cutscenes, so it's a lot, and 50 fights. Got a great narrative team, script writers, primarily led by Dominic Cianciolo, who has been writing our story modes for the last decade. It's some fantastic stuff, and it gets players interested in playing a whole bunch of different characters. Because sometimes, you get your favorite character and you just want to play that character. Story mode's a great way to get, to draw people into, hey, well, now fight, 5 fights as this character, and it keeps you interested. And so we do all that with 5.1. We've got some amazing audio outsourcing partners. Sweet Justice in the UK has been helping us out for the last few projects. They're absolutely amazing. For MK11, we had Will Roger write. He was the primary story mode composer. Wrote us some amazing themes. Mega talented guy. Just lifted us up, lifted the drama of the story up, made it so much more real. So it was great to work with Will. And so it's a lot of doing, but when you work with people that know what they're doing, it seems like you're all talking the same language and marching in the same direction at the same time. It goes pretty smoothly.
Awesome.
Mostly my job is to keep track of I's that need dotting and T's that need crossing. Again, Steven Shapler played a big role in listening to sound effects drops and making sure that they're, sounding like the game. There's a lot of partnership where we give all of our sounds to the outsourcing team that then weaves those sounds into story mode, so that whether Scorpion's in the game or whether Scorpion's in story, they sound like Scorpion. And that's Ermac's sound, and that's this guy's sound. So there's a lot of, and then when they make something that maybe happens in the game, they give us source material back. So there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of cooperation and collaboration between the teams.
So on the story mode, was there a lot of, I would imagine the dialogue played a huge role, right, in telling the story. So, maybe tell us a little bit about just the process of recording. And I'm curious, like with 2020, the way it was in any of the expansions, challenges, let's say, of recording dialogue during the 2020 COVID situation.
Yeah. Well, in general, we use our Burbank studio, led by Brian Watkins and Emmerich, to do all of our VO recording, but that was shut down last year because of COVID. The lot was closed in Burbank. So Emma got us in touch with all these amazing actors who had, recording spaces at their houses, and did the casting through okay, well, we'll listen to the actor and listen to their system at the same time.
And so from a mix standpoint, was there more surround content? Was there more just tell us a little bit of how the audio formats that were used for story mode?
We do our story mode in 5.1. And most of our game is 5.1. Our game is 5.1. And then Wise folds all that down to PlayStation, and the Xbox fold that down to stereo. There are some interesting things we do with pan. I was thinking about to Anthony's question. We do most of our set pieces. Anytime we have a cinematic, we do have the sound designer do it in stereo, because we know that the camera is a fixed position. So the sound designer can hang their hat on okay, this is where all the cameras are going to be. So they do all the panning in the DAW. One interesting thing about Mortal Kombat that probably nobody knows or cares about unless you're an audio person, that since you fight on a vertice, you fight on a line. It's a 2D game, like you were saying earlier, Mike, in that aspect, that a lot of times when a cinema happens, whether you're on the left side or the right side, we'll design the cinema so that the main character is all the way on the left, always on the left side. But it's often that you have a finishing move where you complete from the right side. So you can't have the character jump to be on the left side. So we have tech that allows us to mirror our story mode. It basically flips the image, and then we use
conditions where the player happens to be on the other side.
Exactly. So we only have one movie that exists in the game that always assumes that the primary player, the victor or the attacker, as we call them, is on the left side. And then the game engine flips the image and flips the audio if the attacker is mirrored. So yeah, it's kind of this like it takes us some time to do it because we have to set up the content so that you can parameterize these channels separately and then flip their pan position. But it's one of the weird quirks of working on a game that's as a fight line and not 3D space. So a lot of like what Dan was talking about, a lot of mono, a lot of stereo that's been speaker placed or kind of squeezed in its imagery for the gameplay aspects, and then the cinematic sequences are stereo, and then story mode is 5.1. But even like to Dan's point, the gameplay stuff is also 5.1, and whether it's being attached to a game object and updating in real time, or whether it's a cinema that's been pre-mixed by the sound designer.
Yeah, we also make the gameplay music surround. It's actually quad, so it'll play left, right, left surround, right surround, and then we can put a couple, put some sort of ostinato or some element that travels in the rear speakers just to give some sort of interest behind you. But most of the action is going to be in front of you.
Cool. And Anthony, I'm curious, whenever you played Mortal Kombat, did you play it in surround or stereo, or like what how did you
Hell
enjoy it?
No, man. We played it in the back of a tour bus, dude.
Yeah.
It's like a little TV, about this side, back in the day. Yeah, we played. But when we got home, we'd crank it up. And, to me, anything low, like a body hitting the ground, that exaggerated thunder. I love that kind of stuff. That's when you talk more mess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dropped your black ass on your head.
Well, Anthony, Baby Got Back dropped in 1992 too.
Playing Mortal Kombat on my tour bus. Yeah.
Oh, so that was the year that it was like, 92. Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we got it. We got hooked.
Broke.
I mean, we had the back of the bus, which is where I slept. So I used to call that my throne. Come back here and get your ass whooped. But if I lost, I had to go up front. So it was one of those.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
That's a pretty good year.
That's the tour that I was watching last night. And I'm like, wait a minute, because I heard the Madden stuff, and then all of a sudden I heard finish him, and I'm like, we were playing Mortal Kombat, but I couldn't give Mike the footage because there were visitors on the bus, and
we'll leave it at that. Wow, that's it. Yeah, I'm glad that you pointed that out. That was, both of you all had the Mortal Kombat came out in '92, and Anthony, you had Baby Got Back then. That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
No, speaking of low end. So maybe let's talk about low end. Like any considerations from an audio standpoint, mixing it, like subwoofer, whatever. Just I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, well, innuendo aside, yes. So we try to control our low end.
Me too.
So it's a lot of mixing. The mixing that's done for our game is there isn't anything really pretty about it, in that it's not like we have all these subgroups that we mix our stuff to, like you would take drums and take your drums to a sub mix and move up and down your drum mix, right? But just like anyone that's working on a drum mix, like you end up EQing every drum and dialing in all that stuff. We end up dialing in all of our sound effects by hand by just playing the game, turning this guy's particular sound effect up or turning this particular sound effect down, and it takes a really long time. And it's just the way you get the best result that you can, because it's not like all of Scorpion's sound effects are too loud. It's just never true. They come in at different times, and they, when an animation comes in is when we do the sound. It's about just the impact of his fireball is too loud. The traveling sound is okay. The launch sound is fine, and maybe like it's just the tail that's running too long, or which one of those elements is too loud. And then once we dial in a character, we'll go dial in another character against that character. And it's really sound by sound. And then the designers have to trigger every move that the character can make in order to balance the particular sound that DAWs attached to the animation.
Cool. That's awesome. Like you were talking about, just the approach you take, like for drum EQ and mixing. Yeah.
We also do a lot with, there's sort of iconic sounds, like the uppercut sound. That's like something we can always like use as an anchor. It's like, well, it better not be louder than that, or it needs to be as loud as that. You know, like whatever.
Exactly.
That's like these sort of markers. It's like the hit blasted of a weapon needs to be about the same sort of intensity and shape as like the uppercut, for example, or the big, like there's like, we have 3 levels of body falls. So like the big one, that's like when you're slammed with velocity onto the ground, that's also a marker. It's like anytime someone is slammed, or a big sound should be in that neighborhood. So we do a lot of comparative mixing too.
Very cool.
Very petty question. So Goro can only be.
We are so petty.
So Goro can only be taken out with Johnny Cage punching him in the nuts. Come on, man. That can't be.
I don't think that's true.
Okay. Because I see the movie and I'm like, I've been trying to whip Goro's ass forever and it never works. I was like, all I got to do is do the splits and hit him in the nuts. Damn. Okay.
That does work. Although if he blocks it, then you're in trouble, because now he can like grab
4
you
hands on your
pound
ass.
you in the head. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He starts drumming on your head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and in Mortal Kombat 11, we also did our punch sounds and our kick sounds are hard panned to the center channel. So that's something like, if you're playing in stereo, it just sounds like you panned it like a kick drum, it's mono-ish. But if you're in 5.1, it's nice if you've got like a decent, spread on your home theater system, because that center channel is just pure punch impact, kick impact, block. So we found that can really ground the mix and gets out of the way of the music. It's in quad. And it's a little fun fact for MK11. For the audio geeks.
I do want to touch on a few things. I want to kind of maybe focus some more on some Foley. And then after that, I want to talk about some of the interesting characters that you have in there. But I want to play that video again of the Foley. So hold on one sec. Because I am just blown away by what you all have done in that. So that is just some cool stuff. So let me pull it up here. I'm going to share the screen. Real quick, was that the results of the processing of that? I don't know what that was, like a burlap sack or something, Foley, and so that was what it sounded like afterwards being processed.
Yeah, canvas jacket.
Oh, the
right?
canvas jacket. Sorry, the canvas. Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah, he's basically using that to make like fog source, or like almost like thick fog.
So getting those
clouds,
whips,
kind of. Yeah,
got it. And then
How did he know to try a jacket?
It's just experimenting. I'm sure he's done this before. It probably wasn't his first try.
Wow.
that's very cool. I thought that was really clever. And then getting to the glass breaks here and what that ended up producing, that was really cool. Love it.
He's pitch shifting here.
Mm-hmm. Writing down all these tools here. We got crystallized glitch tube. All right.
That's part of those sounds?
Yep. Yeah, usually, at least for MK11, a lot of the sound is a nice mixture of, real recorded source material with synthetic, synthesized layers.
All right, and then with this one, we're seeing some impact sounds, it looks like, that we're going to get here. By the way, I just love that the glass sounds that kind of made up the sequence of, here, I'm going to play it again, of Sub-Zero's.
Now, glitch is usually something people use like dubstep or EDM stuff. Like, in what way are you using glitch for these sound effects?
So I think he was using the stretcher function in glitch, and it just sort of acts like another way to pitch stuff down. It's a different algorithm, different sound.
If you guys haven't played with the Ubik set of sound processing,
the one on the bottom left here.
it's really fun.
Yeah. Grains.
It's a cheap little group of
It looks like it's doing granular synthesis.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like a time stretch or something.
That's what it is. Yeah. All sorts of like granular twisting, slicing the sounds into teeny tiny little grains and then reorganizing them. This particular one.
I love how it all comes together. That is cool. Sub-Zero is probably one of my favorite characters. I just, he's awesome.
Hey, he was a bad guy in the movie. I'm like, damn, Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
Taking cats out.
Yeah.
Well, that was like the old Sub-Zero, but then there's a new Sub-Zero that's a good guy, so it's kind of hard to keep track.
Let's talk about some of the impacts here, right at the Sub-Zero hitting that.
Excuse me.
What the heck was that? Wait. You got to tell us what this is.
It's slime.
Booger soup.
There were.
Oh, is that someone who's breathing or talking through the tube or what?
Yeah, basically it's just a piece of PVC pipe, and we're blowing through it, sticking it in the slime bucket and blowing into it.
Love it.
The
That is
slime
so
bucket.
Cool.
Every studio has a slime bucket.
It's like a sexual pet name.
Yeah.
Oh, he's my little slime bucket.
Oh, that's pure gold. You got to keep that.
Oh, man, that's cool.
Yeah, it's tough keeping up with the artists for the blood and the gore, but we have a good time trying. A lot of vegetables get harmed in the making of a Mortal Kombat game. And we also have to kind of pay attention to the season, if it's the fall when things are coming in or what's coming in fresh from wherever. You get the watermelon season. We get a bunch of watermelons. It's fun to go through Costco with a cart with 15 watermelons in it. You're like, what are you looking at?
Damn, you guys are hungry.
In December.
Yeah, well,
You heard about that new watermelon diet?
It gets even funnier
Exactly.
when you're at Home Depot and you're banging metal rods together to listen to the sound, and everyone's looking at you like, the heck is this guy doing?
John, do you have a pipe that's resonant at, say, 4K?
yeah.
All right. I'm sure, I know there's a lot of close calls or things like that. It was, I've noticed with some like smashing things, like someone like smash a finger or worse. Or they got anything.
Oh, Dan, you want to tell them about the time you made someone throw up?
I want to hear that.
Did you record it?
No, because he went to the bathroom to throw up.
That would have been a good effect. You guys, you know what? I think you guys should do rap characters where Snoop Dogg takes a joint and put a dude's eye out,
Snoop
man.
Dogg.
I think Dan always suggests Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Well, we want Snoop to be our announcer. I thought that would be
That would be the best.
fatality.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd bring some attitude.
Y'all see the way he whooped that motherfucker's ass? That's what I'm talking about.
You'd have to have a little puff in there.
That would be funny, man. I don't know if you guys saw him when he did boxing. Roy Jones versus Tyson. My God, he was funny. He was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He said it looked like two old uncles at a barbecue fight. I'm a Snoop fan.
Maybe we can use that footage to get that on board.
Oh man, that's some great stuff. Yeah, no, I was pretty blown away with the fact that you guys had such cool characters that could fight each other. So iconic 80s and or even 90s stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop. That's right. Yeah. Well, in the new and the old, I noticed like you get the different skins for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it helps to have a legal department that can chase this stuff down. And once we decide, and I don't know if it's marketing or who, but like there is some sort of conversation between, our studio and the people and the characters that we want to put in, and then Warner Brothers has obviously this library of movies, but also the PR and marketing and legal departments that can make this stuff happen for us.
All right, I want to know who recorded Sylvester Stallone. Was that fun, or who was that, or is that done by
our narrative director, Dominic Cianciolo? He is present for all of the voice recordings, whether it's Zoom or whether it's in real life. He makes sure that it gets done and as good as it sounds. Yeah,
that came out great. I really loved that.
Good.
Should have had Stallone fighting Adrian, get his ass whooped. That would have been cool.
No.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So, well, I mean, as far as like Anthony, were there any things that you wanted that you were burning questions on your end?
Oh no. I wrote down a list of plugins I'm going to get as soon as we get out of here. Yeah.
Oh wow. So, well, one thing maybe talk about, just a couple final things is, let's talk about mixing, because you have all these really insanely loud or, sounds in the sense that, you have the impacts and they're all maximum, right? You want it to be just punched through everything. And then you got all this stuff that's kind of fighting each other from a sound standpoint. So I'm curious from the mixing standpoint, what are the challenges and, things that you've done to make sure that everything is heard the way you want?
Yeah, well, it starts like really at the beginning with the vibe of what we think is the most important stuff and what is like where everything falls into place. Like obviously, like punches are our bread and butter. We want the player to, when you punch someone, it's got to feel good. You got to know that you hit someone. So those are kind of like where we put those in the mix. They cannot be hidden. You cannot get louder than a successful impact. And so if you body slam someone and you take off health, then that's going to be a similar volume than how much of an uppercut punch you take off a similar amount of health. So there's this like philosophy. It's just game design based audio mixing, which so many of our colleagues at other have at other studios. It's just what is happening in the game that you need to tell the player about, that you need to support with audio. And usually whether those things become the loudest in your game or they become the most clear in your game, you need to communicate that real information to the player.
So when you're doing stuff like, let's say, the Sub-Zero, kind of the ice when it busts and you hear the tingles and all that, obviously you got to be real careful how you use compression then, because obviously the compressor is going to raise up the floor and give it a little less dynamic. So are you using just limiter and that's it on those kind of things? Just so it doesn't go over a certain level, but you don't want to pick up that low end threshold, right?
Yeah, Matt, why don't you talk about some of the ways, how hard you hit the compressor limiter on character
stuff
sound
with tails on it.
Yeah, so generally everything is really compressed because everything is so loud in the mix. If you have, say you have an impact that is an ice impact, and then you have the trains at the beginning, the body of it, and then you have like the debris, like little crackles and tinkles at the end. If that stuff's not heavily compressed and brought up to be with the body of the sound, you're not going to hear it. So basically all of like our exports it like starts as a sausage and like goes into, you can like sort of see it like taper down.
Now you're talking like an engineer.
So it's just, most of the mixing happens in Wise.
Yeah, I mean, putting that much compression limiting on something allows us to put it in the mix kind of where we want it. The game itself has an overall compressor limiter on it as well. When you first boot the game, there's a audio options menu. And we give players a choice of like 3 different speaker systems, we call it, whether you're using your television set, a home theater, or a bookshelf speakers. But when you choose between those three things, what you're really doing is just dropping the threshold of the game compressor and turning up the makeup gain. So like if you're listening on a television set that has like speakers the size of a nickel, and those speakers are pointed back at your wall because no modern television has speakers that are front facing, then we're going to compress the game and limit it a lot so that you can hear quiet stuff, or else it's going to get lost. Whereas if you have a home theater system, you've got full range speakers, or you've got some great headphones, you're going to want to listen at the highest fidelity possible and let that dynamic range that you're really hearing the punches, footsteps are nice and quiet. You're not battling a cheap, crappy television speaker.
Are you all doing, because I know in Wise you have HDR capabilities. Are you doing any sort of interactive dynamic range management?
No, not at MK11. We looked at that really hard, and we didn't do it. Like before I mentioned, like the real way that we mix this game, MK11 was mixed just by hand, one sound at a time. And really, like Eric and Steven were the 2 guys that really just combed through character until they felt that the game was balanced. And every other character that released, every DLC character had to fight against our template character, and sounds got brought down until they sounded in the same volume range as Sub-Zero's. And Steven just did it, by hand. It was really
so you are dealing with the LUFS standards then?
Yeah, we do. We care a lot about LUFS stuff. And Sony has guidelines, and we really appreciated when Sony came out with the PS4. Their guidelines were real nice and specific, and they've got great QA that gives us feedback about how loud that they'll play the game. They give us a 3-hour report. We played your game for 3 hours, and this is the LKFS value. So they go through story mode, they play the game, they spend time in the UI customizing their characters, just trying to emulate what it's like for a normal player at home. Like, you fight for a little while, but then you go customize your character. You put on a new weapon, and you're listening in the front end, and then you go and you play some story mode, and that's a widely different LUFS. So it's really nice to see the Sony that takes care of that, is listening to that, acknowledges that, and we do too.
Very cool. Well, I mean, we're at the point now where I think maybe more at the tail end of things. Were there any things on either Dan or Rich or Matt that you wanted to share that were just sort of like, hey, we want the world to know about? Happy to share. Please do.
And I'm going to be doing voices for the next for Mortal Kombat 12.
All right. What are you doing?
Whatever.
Why can't Sir Mix-a-Lot be a character? You could throw CDs.
What would be my secret weapon? Let me think of something. I gotta have a way of
like throwing stars, but they're CDs, and they slice your arm.
Yes, cut his larynx out.
Or vinyl.
Yeah,
vinyl. I like that. Yeah.
I was gonna say you got enough gold records back there.
I can use a Warner Brothers line when I kill a guy. I can say, "Your publishing is mine."
Yeah, there you go.
I used to deal with Warner Brothers. It's an inside joke.
I love it. Oh man. So yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, you never know. Hey, Anthony, this could be this could be like, hey, you're the cameo character coming in.
I don't know. I guess if there's anything that I'd want to say, it would just be, thank you to the players that play the game and enjoy the game, and it's the best to know that people are listening and people are enjoying the title, and it's why we're in this business, and it just feels great that people still care and still play it.
Yeah, it's incredibly affirming.
That's because you guys care. That's
I
why.
mean, I was at
true.
Comic-Con in New York City, and they had it was basically there was a little event for the 25th anniversary of Mortal Kombat. So they actually gathered up the 4 original members, like me, Ed, John Tobias, who's no longer with Warner Brothers, and John Vogel, who is still on the team. And Warner Brothers actually flew John Tobias out to New York City to participate in this panel. And the thing that struck me was that how passionate the fans are about the game, and they really love it. And it's like, wow. I can't believe that that we have had that kind of impact on people, and that's super cool.
And also a little sick and demented.
Yeah, but cool.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm a fan. I got my Mortal Kombat shirt on.
Well, thank you.
So you guys have a 30-year anniversary coming up, right?
What are you going to do?
We should have a party together.
Got to celebrate. My 30 comes when your 30
Joint party?
comes. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. Don't bring cameras.
Yeah,
Bring this podcast, Mike.
leave the cameras at home.
Yeah. Leave the cameras at home.
So I'm really curious because I spoke with Anthony before about getting banned on MTV with Baby Got Back. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know who I was talking to before. I think it was someone at Warner Brothers that, I was speaking to someone in our emails that at one point, Mortal Kombat got banned. Like, what was that? Back in the 90s or?
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I got banned, but I think what happened was, kids are going to the arcades and pulling people's heads off and with their spines attached. And then it came out on the home systems, and so now it's like out there, and so the lawmakers are like, whoa, what's this?
We can't have
to control
this.
it somehow, right? Exactly. So I think basically that was the impetus for the video game publishers to create the ESRB, which is the rating system.
Are you serious?
Because they didn't want Congress to do it. They wanted to have control over it.
And we all love forbidden fruit. We love it.
Anthony, tell us a little bit about how that all went for you. I mean,
For me, I was at a meeting with then Polygram and some people from Warner Brothers, and I get a phone call. Back then you were cool if you had a big ass cell phone sitting in one of those restaurants. So literally, we get a call and they say, your video has been yanked. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for a punchline. It's like, no, it's gone.
and
I'm thinking my career's over. So then I get a phone call from a young lady that worked for Rick Rubin at the time, and I never will forget her quote. She said, it wasn't a quote, that was her. She made it up. She said, my friend, you are now Elvis Presley, and you shook your leg one too many times on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I said,
Wow.
I'm the forbidden fruit. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. Ban me, baby. I love it. And Mortal Kombat, we're going to celebrate 30 years since we got banned.
Let's go.
Wow.
Been making money ever since.
That's amazing parallels right there. That is some amazing parallels, really. And wow. And I mean, now look at where you all are at. I mean, Anthony, you got you got the wall of glory there, man. That's awesome. And then with Mortal Kombat, I mean, the legacy speaks for itself. It's pretty amazing. So we could blame y'all for ESRB. Is that what it is?
That's
Sorry.
Right. There you go.
Bragging rights. You better tell your grandkids that one day.
Rated M.
Oh, I mean, it's better that the industry police itself as opposed to having the government doing it, right? I mean,
yeah. And they're actually pretty serious about it because they don't want stuff to get through because they don't want the trouble from the government to take that control away, basically.
I loved it. This is great stuff. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you all, Dan, Matt, Rich, for joining us, taking time to talk about the amazing audio production that you've done. It's amazing. It sounds incredible. The passion that you have all put in the sound. I mean, it's one of the most iconic brands out there for games, and you guys really nailed it. And really look forward to.
Thank you for making the coolest video game of all time.
Wow.
Period.
All right.
Well, thanks for saying that.
That's my opinion.
I just wanted to have an opportunity to say thank you for those who watched. Really appreciate you supporting our channel. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, and you'll get alerted whenever we have any new podcasts or any new shows that are put on our VZR channel. And if any of you are all interested, check out vzraudio.com. We actually are an audio company that builds headsets. If you want to find out more information, be sure to check it out and learn more about what we do. And again, I just want to thank everybody. Anthony, thank you so much for making time to join us today. I know you couldn't wait for this, so I'm glad that you were on. And again, just want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks to Warner Brothers, and thanks to all of you at NetherRealm, Dan, Matt, and Rich for joining us today. So I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure.
Warner Chapel, what's happening?